Hi, this is week 5, and this is the position speech. The topic for this speech is going to be about mass deportations. Okay, so mass deportations. Mass deportations, they're much like regular deportations, but they're on a larger scale. When you talk about mass deportations, we're talking about roundups where multiple law enforcement agencies, they coordinate together and they pick up people from work, from home, from school, hospitals, wherever. It's a mass, it's a large scale operation in which they go and they detain the undocumented immigrant, and then they process them, and then they deport them. So for this speech, my position is going to be against mass deportations, and I'm going to tell you why. And here we have some pictures of what it looks like. ICE escorting the detainee to be deported. And here we have a child. He's wearing a shirt that says, "Don't deport my mom." And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so immigrants contribute to the economy. So one of the reasons why I'm against mass deportations is because, contrary to popular belief, immigrants do contribute to the economy. A lot of people have the misconception that they sit on welfare and they take up our welfare and they just come over here and they're on the taxpayer's dime, when actually that couldn't be any further from the truth. Immigrants of all statutes, documented or undocumented, have the potential to contribute greatly to the economy. So these individuals, they come over here from their home country of origin, and they come here for what? For a better life. So they want to work, they want to contribute to the economy, they want to provide a better life for their children, and so on and so forth. A lot of people, they get hung up on the fact that immigrants, automatically they think Mexican, they're from Mexico, but really immigrants applies to anybody outside of the United States. So you're talking about Asians, people from Saudi Arabia, for example, Mexicans. It's, anybody that their original country is not the United States, they're considered immigrants. Okay, so one study found if immigration were granted to all citizens, the tax revenue would increase by an estimated $184 billion. Now this is over a 10-year period, so you're talking about more or less $100 billion a year that they would contribute in excess, in addition to what already is being garnished from our wages. So immigrants would account for an average about $100 billion in tax revenue a year. So say, for example, in 2016, the federal government, they received $3.7 trillion based on our taxes. So in addition, the $100 billion would bring it up to $3.8 trillion. So that figure is moving in a positive direction. That's less of the deficit that's getting paid. That's more of the deficit that's getting paid. That's more property taxes that are being circulated, more schools, more money for roads and things of that nature, civil service, things like that. Now the tax received from this immigrant demographic would be enough to fund the DHS, the same agency that is tasked with deportation. So the government spends about $42 billion a year in deportation operations. And that's more than what it costs to fund DHS. That's the Department of Homeland Security. They're the agency that is tasked with removal of these individuals, which, that it goes again, my position against mass deportations, because they're taking away the working class. They're taking from the working class, they're reducing the tax base. Now we're going to go to the next slide. We're going to talk about DACA. So DACA, a dead end. Now DACA stands for the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Now this law was signed by President Obama in 2012. Now this law it gave people that were brought to the United States before the age of 16, it gave them a 2-year stay in deferred action as far as deportation. So they were allowed to come to this country, and for 2 years nothing was going to happen. They weren't going to be deported. They were given a court date, and they were basically set free. These people were allowed to apply for Social Security numbers. They were allowed to apply for work permits. They were allowed to serve in the military. So for all intents and purposes, these individuals, they were considered U.S. citizens. They were allowed to get social security numbers, which is, by definition, that's an American citizen. He has a social security number. He has an identity. That's his, that's his American identity. So it gave these people a false hope. When President Trump came into office, he had to sign what's called an extension to extend the 2 years. Now, this law was enacted because of the backlog of cases that the immigration court was seeing. So President Trump allowed that bill to expire. So anybody who that law applied to now became an undocumented illegal immigrant, and they were subject to deportation at any point in time, at a traffic stop, if they showed up for jury duty, if they showed up to vote, pretty much anywhere they could be picked up and deported. So we had a lot of individuals that came under the DACA guidelines, and that's anybody under the age of 16, and it applies to anybody from the ages of 12 to 35. So you're talking about, in some cases, adults, grown adults that have already applied for they may already be working. And keep in mind, while they're working, they're having taxes taken out of their checks. They're paying in towards the tax revenue. These individuals have bought homes, so they're paying mortgages, they're paying property taxes, and some of them even served in the military. And it's sad to say that these people were sent to the lines to fight for a country that didn't even own them, that didn't even give them citizenship. They're good enough to go die on the front lines, but they're not good enough to be given citizenship. So in this aspect, your mass deportations, that's where all these roundups come. That's where you hear all these stories of people getting deported from school, from work, because the law expired and literally they had no means to stay in the country legally after they've already been given a social security number, after they've already made their lives here. And that's legally. They filed under that law, and they did it legally. So that's another reason why I'm against mass deportations, because of laws like DACA that gave people a false sense of hope and security that they can come here and they do their part and they find jobs and they add to the tax base, and then they're picked up because the government didn't have any consistency with what one president started, the next one failed to continue. And as a result, all the people that were on the waiting list, now they're illegal aliens and they're subject to deportation at any time. So here we have a picture of a United States veteran, and you can't really see it, but I'm going to read it to you. It says, "My name is Fabian Roberto. I am a deported veteran. My children want me to come home. Hashtag 2 million too many." At the time this picture was taken, 2 million was the number of individuals that were deported. In 2008, for example, there was 359,000 people that were deported from this country. So here you can see he has his United States military uniform on, and you can see the medals. You see the cords on there. You see he's got at least 5 to 7 years of service. See all his insignia. So he's a decorated soldier. He's a veteran. He went to fight for our right to be Americans, for our freedoms, to protect the Constitution. And here he is deported in the land where he's separated from his children. So that I don't think that's fair, and that's another reason why I'm against mass deportations, because individuals like this person right here get caught up in that. Their legal status may be processing through the immigration court circuit of courts, and because of a technicality, because the law expired, now they're gone and picked up when their cases are circulating through the court. So not only does it causes money issues, it's unethical, because people just come and pick you up and take you, and now there's a backlog in the courts, because of course individuals like this person, they're gonna fight their deportation. So now more of the taxpayer money is being used to adjudicate these cases. And now we're going to talk about immigrants by numbers. So again, here we see this number: mass deportations cost the United States $42 billion a year. That's more than the budget for DHS. So 55% of undocumented immigrants speak English fluently, and that is their first language in most cases. 13% have college degrees. So there again, you can't say that they're coming over here living on welfare, because these individuals, they're getting extra education, they're getting secondary education, and 73% live above the poverty line. So they have jobs. They have careers, they have businesses, and they're paying their taxes, and they're living above the poverty line. So that means they're not getting welfare, they're not getting anything like any kind of government assistance. They're self-sufficient in their means. 62% have lived in the United States for 10 years or more. So more than half of these individuals have lived in the United States for 10 years or more. So the United States is their home. They've woken up and gone to school every day. They've held down jobs. They've gone on to college. They're being productive members of society, and they're giving back to the community. That's more than half of them. So that's another reason why I'm against mass deportations, because you think about it, you're taking 62% of them and you're just taking them out. And these people are actually giving back. These people are actually working, they're paying their taxes, and they're doing the things they're supposed to be doing. So in conclusion, mass deportations and roundups are unethical and immoral. And again, with operations on a large scale where you're talking about roundups where they go door to door and they just take people of any legal status, regardless of what their status is as far as their cases or their court dates are, and they're just taking them, that's immoral, it's unethical, it's without due process that these people are being removed. They're being taken from their families, and they're putting them on the opposite sides of the fence. So they pay taxes, they add to our cultural diversity, which makes America America. This country was founded on immigrants that came over from Europe. So it's kind of ironic that immigration is such an issue today, that they're mass deporting people simply for the fact because the law expired or something like that. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm against mass deportations. I believe they should be targeted. There should be a certain group of individuals that they do strive to deport. The ones that have a negative impact on the community. But the ones that have a positive impact, I mean, they should stay. There's no reason why we should deport them if they're paying their taxes and they're giving back and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So here's a couple of pictures. And here you have college kids, and it says, now what? These kids, they refer to them as dreamers. They filed under DACA, so they've gotten their education, and now what? So a lot of times these kids graduate from college, they graduate from high school, and then they're deported to a country they've never lived in, or they don't have any family, they don't know, their main language might be English, and they're sending them back. And here we have more protests and more protests. And you see all kinds of ethnicities. You have Mexican, Muslims. So it doesn't just apply to one certain group. And this is my works cited page, in case you guys want to look up any more information here. This one right here has a lot of good information on DACA, which is still an issue that we're dealing with today. And that's my presentation. Thank you.